Over the weekend, I received a call from an acquaintance of mine. This acquaintance of mine used to work for a startup till until a few months ago. She had a 3 year stint at that particular startup. She completed 3 years out there, post which she got an opportunity with a large organization pertaining to a bigger and better role. So she moved on. During the first year at this particular startup where she was employed, she received stock options or ESOPs. Now, a few months after she left that particular organization and joined the new organization, she was informed by the human resources department at her earlier employer, that's a startup, that there is a liquidity event which has come up, and during that liquidity event, she can exercise her options, or possibly, in other words, encash her ESOPs. So she was extremely thrilled and she thought that everything is going to be great until she realized that not really. The unfortunate reality was this lady did not read through the entire ESOP agreement properly. So she read through the number of stock options which were allotted to her and few other points pertaining to the financial element. However, she didn't read through the finer points pertaining to the ESOP agreement. And one of the points which has put her in a quandary is the point pertaining to the vestment period. So just to give you a gist, of course, the numbers which I'm stating are not exactly what is in her case. So just creating a more of a hypothetical case in terms of the numbers. So pertaining to the vestment period, which she didn't pay too much of attention to. So as a hypothetical case, or assume she was allotted 500 options, stock options, at the beginning of year one or during her first year in the particular organization. So the vestment clause said that every year there would be 100 options which will be up for encashment in case there's a liquidity event. So that meant that at the end of the third year, post which she moved on to the new organization, there were 300 options which she could exercise. And unfortunately, since she didn't complete 5 years, okay, so the 500 options would have been completely vested over a period of 5 years. That's 100 per year. So 500 options for her to be able to vest, she would have had to wait for 5 years. Unfortunately, she only was with the organization for 3 years. So she could only get the benefit of those 300 stock options. So 200 stock options, unfortunately, she couldn't do anything about it. So she was dismayed about this financial loss. And the unfortunate reality is she didn't realize about it until the time she had the discussion with me and I had the opportunity to go through the ESOP agreement and tell her that this is what it is. She was informed by the HR department that it's going to be 300 stock options that she can exercise or utilize. However, her thought was all the 500 stock options were completely vested as per her perspective, and the reality is this issue happened because she didn't completely read through the ESOP agreement. So this brought in a lot of sadness in spite of the fact that she's going to make a decent windfall out of even these 300 options. The unfortunate reality is there's a loss somewhere, and this is a point which I observe in a lot of working professionals and even entrepreneurs, even people at the senior level. The unfortunate reality is many of us do not read through the finer prints of an agreement or possibly official documents. Even when it comes to working professionals, the important documents from their point of view, the offer letter, the appointment letter, the employment agreement, the ESOP agreement, many of us only look at elements pertaining to the financial points. We do not take the time and effort to read through the entire document. And let me tell you, this is a grave mistake that we would be doing. Just like the lady who signed off this agreement or the ESOP agreement without going into understanding what it entailed pertaining to the vestment period, the exercise price, and various other elements within the ESOP agreement. We all somewhere make similar mistakes. We possibly mention that we don't have time, or possibly we don't have patience, or possibly we have too much of trust within the organization. So, whatsoever is the reason, however, please understand that not reading any official document and signing off can turn out to be a disaster in the long run for you. So, be it whatever document, go beyond just the financial element. So, as I mentioned, I've also observed entrepreneurs who sign documents without even reading it completely. So, it's not only limited to working professionals at the junior or mid junior level. I can see or observe working professionals, even senior leaders, who don't take the time to read the documents that they're signing off. And that becomes a problem because at times, what can happen because you've signed a document, and especially if it's a legally binding document, then once you've signed it, irrespective of whether you've read it or not read it, you're bound by the legal terms within that agreement. You cannot claim ignorance in case there is a court case or some legal initiative or intervention. So once you have signed a document, if it's legally binding, then you will have to adhere by the terms, and then you can't claim that you didn't read it because that's not something which would be expected of you, and you would not get any recourse or any benefit by making such a claim. So what should you be doing? So there are a few points I would request or I would suggest each one of you to follow. One, any official document, please read it thoroughly. Please take the time and effort to go through every single word. Don't take any organization or person for granted. This is not to say that you should not be trusting anyone. However, you need to verify and be sure that whatever you're signing, that is something which you understand clearly. The second point is reading documents thoroughly would also enable you to get certain points clarified. At times, certain documents, maybe standard documents, for example, employment agreement or the appointment letter, these may be standard documents and there may be certain clauses, or possibly all the clauses are standard for all the team members or employees of the organization. So even in case you cannot change any clause which you don't prefer to have, at least you get clarification on that. So there is no confusion later on which would bring up some surprise to you. The third point is, in case of any sensitive document like the ESOP agreement, in addition to getting it clarified by the human resources department or even the senior management in your organization, in addition to that, it would also be good if you take external consultation, possibly a lawyer or a consultant who has thorough knowledge pertaining to ESOPs. In case you can consult such a person, even if it requires you to invest some money, that's fine. Rather than getting a shock later on, like this lady in question, and there being a heartbreak, it's always better you clarify every point way in advance. The next point is, please understand, these official documents are not just a piece of paper. Once you sign it off, it also has a mark of you or your personal brand. So there, understand that you should not be signing any document at all without reading, because there it's going to impact your own positioning, your own personal brand. So whatever you're doing, you will need to do after proper consideration, evaluation and deliberation. Please don't make any reason or excuse for that matter, stating that you don't have the time, that you just signed the document and it's a standard document. So whatever is the scenario, please go beyond the financial points, because the financial points, let me tell you, Everyone reads through it as to what the salary is, or what are the number of stock options allotted, or in the case of an entrepreneur, in case they're signing a service agreement or an agreement with a client, the value of that particular business. All those financial elements people actually read through. Unfortunately, people don't read elements which are very important. For example, the termination clause for working professionals in an employment agreement or in the appointment letter, or any other sensitive clause. So you don't read it now. In case there's an adverse scenario later on, you would be in trouble. So understand that no one is going to explain matters to you, because at the end of the day, others have their own jobs to do. No HR person or no senior or top management or even your boss is going to invest too much of time explaining to you the nitty-gritties of an official document. You will have to figure it out yourself, and you are responsible for your own future. In case, as I mentioned, you need support, you can also rely on external support. There are multiple consultants and legal experts who can support you, of course, at a fee. However, please don't take any official document lightly, because today you take it lightly, you may be required to pay a heavy price in the future. So please be cognizant on this, and my request, and once again I'm reiterating, please read all official documents, each word of it, before you sign it off. Thank you very much for your time.